To be honest, you don't really need a 99% to get into
Mhm.
the top uh, institutions in Singapore. So, for example, NTU, I've seen a lot of students get in with a 95%, some of them get in with a 94%. I personally had a 96.4% and I got in.
Welcome to the third episode of Fresh Off the Boat in 2024. I'm delighted to be with Vedika Gadian, and she has been on this show in our earlier podcast seasons, and it's great to have you back. So, welcome, Vedika, once again.
Thank you so much, Arjun sir. Thank you so much for inviting me again. I'm really excited to share about my journey, and I hope it helps anyone who's referring to this video to plan their future.
Singapore is an interesting destination for students from South Asia. And in general, we've seen number of students applying to schools in Singapore increasing every year.
Yeah.
Vedika, you've been there, you've done it, you went to the finest institution. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and then we'll move on to what you're doing next.
Okay, so in Singapore, just to give some context about what I did there, I went to Singapore in 2019 to do my Bachelor of Business, and I majored in Business Analytics. After the 3-year degree, I joined Digify, which was a software development company, as an associate product manager. So my journey there was about working in Singapore and also studying there. I would say studying in Singapore was similar to any B school experience. It was a mix of group-based learning, group projects, and academic focus. So as many people who are aiming for Singapore might know, Singapore is very academically inclined and the competition is very tough. So doing internships while studying was definitely something that I had to juggle. And that was the toughest part, I'd say, because as a business major, you were supposed to gather outside experience so that you can land a job quicker as an international student. And you're also supposed to study and get those good grades. So yeah, that to summarize my academic experience, it was tough, it was challenging, very competitive. Then the job search in Singapore was also something that required, like I would say, about 100 to 200 applications. After which I was able to join Digify. So yeah, that's a summary of my academic experience.
Applying to colleges in Singapore has been brushed off as, oh, you need that 99%, and only then can you make it to the top 2 or 3 universities there. When we look at schools which have such high cutoffs, a very used term in India, where typically public universities have that as a threshold for students applying to those colleges, it's really hard for someone like you to then grapple all the things that my extracurriculars in high school, will they help, or what is it that they look for beyond my grades. So how did you understand this aspect of you know working through your applications while you were in high school going to
Mhm.
Singapore?
Okay, so I think you, to be honest, you don't really need a 99% to get into
Mhm.
the top uh, institutions in Singapore. So, for example, NTU, I've seen a lot of students get in with a 95%, some of them get in with a 94%. I personally had a 96.4% and I got in. So, if you're someone who's aiming for a scholarship, maybe having a 99% would really help. But if you're just talking about getting in, 99% isn't the requirement. Same for SMU and NUS as well. Although I haven't been able to figure out what NUS really requires in their students, but for SMU and NTU at least, I have not seen that this is a strong criteria that students must have, 98, 99, 97%. So I would say if you're above 90, it's definitely worth a shot and you have chances of getting it.
So let's break down the application process in terms of how holistic it is, whether showcasing your writing skills through personal essays is required, or extracurriculars in a field not related to your academic choice. Is that going to help? So how is the application, say, different from applications to colleges which are more holistic, say in the United
Mhm.
States, or even in liberal arts colleges, say in India, like Ashoka and all?
Okay, so the application for NTU, very honestly, is not extremely holistic. So, although if you if you're excelling in a sport, let's say you play at a national level or international level, there is some provision for direct admission that really helps you. But if you're not, then what they give priority to is your board exam marks. So personally, my application was mostly blank. They did have a section for work experience, for sports, extracurriculars. So I had what most Indian high school kids have. So that would be some extracurricular uh, participation in terms of clubs that we've joined or the grades that we have. And that in general is enough to apply and get in. So I would say for anyone who's aiming to get into NTU for their social sciences or for their business courses, if you have a good board exam grade, then that's good enough. And for engineering, I believe JEE, etc. helps a lot, but I'm not really sure about what you need for engineering. Yeah.
About choosing to do a master's degree, say post 1.5, 2 years of work, how difficult is that decision? What parameters do you actually keep in mind? Which countries do you pick? What are the possible outcomes by studying a certain course at a university in another country? Do you change a country from where you are in the undergrad years? What is the risk involved in doing that? These are so many questions that come to mind. So we will be discussing all of this now. So go ahead, tell us more.
Okay, so to answer your first question, what really makes the decision tough, right? So in Singapore, I was in a job that was pretty good. I was doing a role that I really liked, and the pay was also good. I had a good set of friends. So for me, the toughest part about the decision was because I was considering MIM. A lot of people who get in, a lot of students who get in are actually just college graduates, like they're fresh graduates. And I was someone who was experienced. So the toughest part was deciding whether I should just wait and get an experience for an MBA or should I directly go for the MIM program. So what helped me make the decision was two things. First was the fact that although I liked my job, I felt like my learning had sort of plateaued. The focus was on B2B SaaS, business to business software as a service. And beyond that, I did not feel like I was learning a lot. And I really wanted to be in an environment that challenges me more, where I'm exposed to different subjects, where I'm interacting with more people and, just broadening my horizons. And I did not want to wait for another 2 years to do that. So that was one. Another thing was getting a good MBA abroad, which means you're aiming for M7 or let's say other European universities on the top. They require experience and they also require a lot more beyond just that experience. So in my case, I had like to get into one of those programs, I would have had to switch my job and get, let's say, a big brand name in my resume and also do some extracurricular activities, something else, something that shows that okay, I have a passion for things other than just working, right? So I knew that managing that would require a lot of commitment, and also getting another job in Singapore was something that I wasn't sure, given the market conditions, I would have been able to do. So given all of this, I knew the more realistic choice was to go for an MIM. So that's what helped me decide. Now, coming to the choice of countries, because I'm from India, I knew that if I go to the US, it's going to be very far, and my visit to like going back to India would be tougher. I wouldn't be able to visit family frequently. That's why I wanted to limit myself to Europe and Asia. So, and because I've been around Asia now, I've traveled a lot living in Singapore and lived in Singapore for about 5 years. I wanted to go outside Asia. So then I focused on European schools. And that's when I narrowed it down to LBS, HEC, ESSEC, and ESCP. So these are the top four institutions known for MIM. They're very renowned. If you on the Financial Times list, these are the ones that top the list. So that's how I started the search basically, and then I looked at all the school's programs, what kind of placements do they offer, what's the employment rate, etc., the pay, all of that, and then I shortlisted it. Also, how long the course is. So, for example, LBS offers a 1 year degree, and the other schools that I just talked about, SEC, ESCP, HEC, they let you take a 2 to 3 year degree based on what you want to do. So I did not want to just go for 1 year. I felt like that was rushed. So that's another factor that people might want to consider.
Great. So MIMs offer a range of courses and you can choose specializations. Tell us a little bit about the strategy focus that you want to sort of build into your curriculum, and why choose that, and what's the end game sort of studying that?
Okay. So, the strategy focus that I have in mind, that was because of my work experience. While working at Digify, at first I was doing product marketing, then I was doing product management, then I was doing product strategy. So the difference between these roles primarily is that product management has a more tech focus and it's more operational compared to a strategy role. So the strategy role was more about what we want to build, why we want to build it, who are we building it for, because it's a product, right? So and why do we want to build it for these people? Are these the most lucrative segment? So these are the questions that I liked answering more compared to, okay, why this feature is performed in this way. So it was more upstream, the strategy part. And the PM part, product management part, was more downstream and it focused on nitty gritties of the product itself. So if this feature is placed in this part of the UI, how would that, how would that be different from the other part of the UI, let's say? So yeah, that's how it is. I knew that, okay, I want to go more upstream and I want to develop better skills for strategizing. And I also want the focus to be more broad, not just B2B SaaS. So that's why I decided I want to get out of here, get more experience in strategy, learn what else there is to do in strategy, and see which niche I want to pick. So that's how I knew I want to go for MIM.
So what's a typical like electives, courses, options that you have to study in the 2 years for in an MIM degree? Typically, some MIM degrees are also shorter duration ones. So this seems a lot more intense, almost like an MBA. So
Mhm.
what's the difference between an MBA and an MIM in that context? So yeah.
Okay. I would say in terms of academics, it's there's a huge overlap. It's pretty much the same. The difference would be on the kind of people you'll find in the court. So obviously for MIM, the students would be more junior in terms of their experience, and some of them are fresh graduates. So the value in terms of your network is not at par with the network that you'd build at an MBA program. So if you have to choose among the two, it's basically a trade-off. You go for your master's earlier, you get in more easily compared to an MBA program. And then, yeah, versus if you're going to the MBA program, you have to really work on profile building. So I would say that's the main difference, the quality of network and the kind of contacts you build, what the scope of things that you can do after you graduate. And also, I would say the placements, they are higher in level. So to give you an example, in the consulting space, if you graduate with an MIM degree, you would become an associate consultant. If you graduate with an MBA degree, you will go to a consultant role.
So
Yeah.
the last question I have is about choosing France over, say, the UK for MIM, and
Mhm.
also getting ready for a life in a country which encourages its own language, let's just say, for lack
Yeah.
of you know, sounding good. But what is it? Is that something you've been discussing, or it's not a big deal? The course of instructions are obviously in English, and people you would be interacting with will understand. Or are you preparing for life and also learning from French as a language?
Okay, it definitely is a big deal. I'm learning French currently. I'm taking classes every day. Uh, the choice between UK and France, um, I was inclined towards UK actually initially, but given the market, UK is in recession, and I talked to a lot of people on LinkedIn, and I found out it's very, very difficult to secure a job after you graduate. Even in France, it's not that easy, but given that HEC's program was better suited to my requirements and also it gave you 2 years to build your profile, 2 or 3 based on what you want. And LBS did not offer you that. So at least at HEC, I was better positioned to, use all the resources that I had to build a profile that would land me a job eventually. That's how I decided. Also, I wasn't really worried about French much. I had enough time. So right now I have a stretch of 3 to 4 months. I'm completely free right now. So I'm learning French. My aim is to learn up till A2 level and then go to France, which would help based on the conversations I've had with people there in HEC.
That sounds like a super plan, and also just getting ready to go
Yeah.
and learn new things, and you're already on track to do that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Another great consideration I would say is that the visa, right? So A French visa is more friendly for us because obviously we can you can travel entire Europe if you have that. Versus UK visa, you'll still have to get the Schengen visa. So I felt like it was easier for me to just explore nearby countries. And then I'm not sure what the postgraduate, like after you graduate, I'm not sure what exactly uh, what provisions there are for an international graduate. But in France, you get 2 years to secure a job. Like you can stay there for 2 years. It's not a problem, and then you just have more time to job search and get a job.
Fantastic. I think we'll let you go to France and then catch you again for
Yeah.
another quick podcast. So thank you so much, Vedika, and enjoy your prep and 3 months of getting ready to be in Paris. So look forward to tracking your journey ahead. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.